So, all right. So we've created our groups, right? So we've created the spline IK. I rebuilt the curve, which I didn't have to do, but you know, I thought it would be better to have more clusters. Perhaps I might have overdone it, especially for this upper control, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And then we group the clusters, right? 3 steps so far. So now what we want to do is we want to, we have our controls here. They've already had the transformations frozen, right? And what I want to do is I want to I'm going to parent constrain each of these controls to their respective groups, right? So the lower to the lower, the mid to the mid, and the upper to the upper. So I select the control click the lower torso group. Go back to my rigging menu, constrain parent, again, making sure maintain offset is on, everything is there. I'm just going to hit apply. Do the same thing for the mid to the mid, apply, from the upper to the upper, apply, right? So now each of these is being controlled individually by that. I also want to, actually, you know what? I did one thing slightly out of order. I should have moved the pivots of these groups. Yeah. White bread?
No.
What?
Not this time. Hannah, she wanted Hannah.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. So I'm just going to undo my constraints. And I want to move these pivots. I forgot about that, so I apologize for that. So each of these groups, like I said, all groups pivots by default are at 0 in the world, and they need to be moved before we do the constraints. Otherwise, it's going to move the clusters after the fact. So I'm just going to hold down D, and I'm going to hold down D and V, and I'm going to move my first pivot, my lower pivot. First, I'm going to snap it to the cog, and then I'm going to move it slightly above so that it is floating just above the cog joint. I'm going to take my mid and do the same. I'm going to hold down D, and I'm going to middle click. Come on. Wow, really? I don't know why it's not going up there. Okay. Oh, I didn't meant to DNV, the middle click and snap it to there. And then I'm going to lower it to just below between these two joints, or these two clusters, right? So you can see that cluster there and between those two. And then the upper, I'm going to hold down DV, middle click and drag. No, it really doesn't like to do that, does it? Okay. Where'd it go? Let's snap it up there manually. And then hold down D and lower that one down between these two. All right. So now that I've done that, then I'm going to do my constraints. So again, lower control to lower group, constrain parent, mid to mid, and constrain parent, upper to upper constrained parent. So now I have this kind of thing going on. And then, just like in a real world scenario, if I move my core, the rest of my spine is going to follow suit. If I move the midpoint, my upper spine is going to follow suit, right? So that's a standard parent-child relationship. If I move this, this should go with it, and subsequently this, right? If I move this by itself, this should go with it. It's a standard parent-child relationship as far as the controls are concerned. We're not dealing with constraints on the controls, right? So my upper spine is going to be regular parented to my mid spine control, my upper spine control, upper torso to my mid torso and hit P. My mid is going to go to my lower and hit P. Regular old parent-child relationship. You should see them looking like this: lower, mid, and upper, just like that. Okay. So what happens when I rotate the lower, the others go with it. When I rotate the mid, the upper goes with it. When I rotate the upper, it's just the upper by itself. When I rotate all three, I get a nice curve. Now, if you find that your spine is too straight in places, you can always adjust the position of the let's see if this helps. No, that's not going to work either. Okay, that's fine. What you may have to do is, if you find that it's too straight, and this, I think this comes from, mine's a little bit straight. I think this comes from too many clusters in my curve, honestly. Or maybe I shouldn't have rebuilt it. But you can see, like, I have a straight line here, and I really shouldn't have a straight line there. Maybe I shouldn't have rebuilt the curve. I don't normally do that, but I thought it would be okay, and now I'm getting straight parts of my spine, which, if I look at the, the character, when I rotate this, I'm going to get, I'm going to get straight lines in the geometry, which I don't want. So, yeah, oh well. So I'll just put that, don't rebuild your curve. I shouldn't have done it. I regret it. But hey, I'm trying new things, and it didn't work out in this case. All right, so I have these. I want to name my stuff. Let me go ahead and name my IK handle. So I'm just going to type, I'm just going to name this spine spline underscore IK. Again, lowercase spine, uppercase spline, and then underscore IK. I don't really need to name my clusters. They're fine. But I want to name my IK because I have multiple IKs throughout my character. So, and I'm going to have more. Any questions so far? Okay. So my, what? My lower spine control should move with my move me, right? So I'm going to take my lower spine control, shift, select my move me, and hit P. Again, regular old parent-child relationship for that. So now this happens. I kept this way specifically to show you exactly what's going on here. And at this point, I can also show what turning off relative does. But this is not what relative does. What this is that when I move this forward, it seems like I'm getting twice the amount of movement in the character's spine than the character itself, right? This is what's called double transformations. If I haven't mentioned that before, I know I've mentioned it, but I don't think I've actually shown it. But this is what's called double transformations. What's happening here is that the move me is controlling the movement of the controllers, the spine controllers, right? But it's also, well, okay. So the move me is actually controlling the cog, right? So the cog is moving the character forward. But the spine is being controlled by the curve. And the curve is also being moved forward because the curve is parented to the cog joint. So the main controller is moving the cog, and the cog is moving the curve, and the curve is moving the spine, which is also being controlled by the cog, right? So the spine is being moved by both the curve and the cog joint at the same time, right? They're both having influence. So what we need to do, this is why when I went to the create IK spline handle, I kept auto parent curve on to show you this, right? When you auto parent the curve, it parents the curve under the cog joint or whatever joint it is that you have created it as a part of that system, right? So whatever you're attaching it to, it parents the curve into the hierarchy of the joints, right? Because of that, we're getting these double transformations. I could have avoided this by turning that off when I created the IK spline handle, but I wanted to show you what this double transformations looked like so that if you see it and or when you see it, you'll know what happened. This is because the curve is parented into the joint system. We're getting double transformation. If I take this curve and I hit Shift P to unparent it, and I do the same movement, it's fixed. Okay, so I do want the curve, which I'll just call this spine spline underscore CRV for curve. I do want the curve to be a part of the overall hierarchy, but I do not want it to be controlled by the joints. Okay, because the curve controls the joints control the curve controls the joints. It's bad. It's a cycle, right? So that's that. Now for the relative problem, as I said, I get a nice arc, not as good as I'd like, but I get a nice arc when I rotate my joints, right? I'm going to hide my geometry. I want to show you what this is. I'm going to select one of these cluster handles, just one, and I'm going to turn relative back on, right? So as you're going through, you could select a cluster and you might miss turning one of them off, right? Because if I select cluster 1, right, that's a lot of stuff that I have to go through and click each one. I might miss one or accidentally undo or whatever. But what it looks like when you turn one of those relatives off, it looks like this. You get the curve being left behind where that cluster was. Okay. And if I turn on my, so it looks like this. Okay. So if you see something like this, or if your clusters aren't moving at all, right? Because that would happen. I'm not going to go through and reactivate every single one, but that can happen where you move these controls and the clusters don't really do anything, or it's not acting the way you think it should. It's probably because you either forgot to deactivate all of them, or if it's leaving you with an accordion, you might have just missed one, right? Yeah.
That could be useful, like if you wanted to make a muscle, like you could like use that process.
Sure. Yeah. So when I deselect my relative, it works again. Okay. So I wanted to show you that also. I like to show you guys the problems that are most common so that you know how to fix it. Okay. So now we have this movement. We have left to right. If I rotate on Y, it don't do nothing. Not really. Okay. If you remember, when we tested our joints, we wanted, to be able to rotate the character left and right. But the thing is, I can't do it now because I have that curve there. But the thing is, now it's being controlled by this IK handle. And what does an IK handle have that controls twist? Right, a twist attribute. So this twist attribute needs to be controlled by the Y rotation of these controls, right? I am rotating on Y. You can see it here. It's at 30.91, and I'm just getting a little bit of a shimmy, right? I'm not getting actual twist. So what I need to do is I need to write what's called an expression. I don't think I've talked to you guys about expressions yet, but an expression is a line of programming, a line of code that evaluates every time you move the character, right? Every frame, however you want to call it, right? So it runs this expression, this code. And I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to break it down. Okay, I'm going to write this up on Notepad. It's always a good idea to write your expressions in a plain text editor like Notepad, Notepad++, things like that, and then copy and paste it in, right? So what I want to do, I'm gonna let me pull up. I'm gonna pull up the expression editor. So Windows, General Editors. Sorry, not General. Animation Editors. Windows Animation Editors. Expression Editor. Windows Animation Editors. Expression Editor. Windows Animation Editor. 4 hours later. Expression Editor. All right, so that's going to pull this up. Now, I'm going to select my IK handle. And when I select my IK handle, and again, that's sticking out the back here. When I select my IK handle, it selects it and shows it here where it says objects, and it shows all of the main attributes that are found here in the channel box: visibility, translate, rotate, scale, pull vector, blah, 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 and twist, right? When I select these attributes, whatever they may be, you may be noticing that it changes and shows right here, selected object and attribute, and it says spine spline underscore IK dot twist. Okay, so I'm going to break this down for you. Pull that off to the left. Get this here. I usually do this on a whiteboard, but you know, with so many people online, it's just not going to work. So I have spine spline underscore IK. That's the name of my object. It has to be written exactly the same as you've named it. Everything with programming is exactly the same. This is not the same as this. When it comes to programming, they are two completely different and foreign things. A computer does not know the difference between a capital and a lowercase. It also doesn't understand what you meant to type, right? So you have to type it exactly the same as it's written in Maya, right? In how you named your objects, right? So if you had a typo and you misspelled, God help me, Tounge. That is not how you spell tongue. If you spell it correctly one way and you misspell it another way, it's not going to know the difference. I'd say that specifically because it drives me insane when people do that, but whatever. Learn how to spell tongue, please. Okay, so dot twist. Okay, so what this is, when you're dealing with programming, you have object name dot attribute name. Okay, this is how you write things in order to access any object's attribute. So if I had a sphere, sphere 1 dot rotate z, right? This is how you would access the rotate z attribute of the first sphere that's created, right? So that's how we break this down. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to write out. This is going to be fake code. Don't write this down. This is just planning, right? We need to access the twist. So we need the twist value. So twist value to equal the lower torso rotate Y plus the mid torso rotate Y plus the upper torso rotate Y. Okay, so we're going to add these two together, right? This is our order of operations in math, right? And then we're going to group these together. And we're going to multiply it by 2. Okay, so this is how we're going to, actually, let me see. I think I did one thing wrong. Let me do this. Yeah, this is what it should have been. So the lower torso rotate Y plus these two added together times 2, all added to that, right? So our order of operations, right? Everything within parentheses gets added first. So mid torso rotate Y plus the upper torso rotate Y added together. The result of that is multiplied by 2. And then the result of that is added to the lower torso rotate Y, right? So if I have My lower torso is 7 plus, we'll do 3 plus 2 times 2. This will be the same as 7 plus 5, actually 5 times 2, which is 7 plus 10, which is 17. So our twist will be fed the value of 17, right? Twist value equals 17. This is how this is going to work, right? These are variables, if you remember from algebra. Okay? And this is done in real time. So this is our pseudocode, right? This is our planning of what we're going to do. So spline ik.twist, and the equals, when I say equals, means is assigned the value of. Okay, so when I say equals, when I say is assigned, I mean this equals sign. Okay, so when you're speaking in programming language, this is not an equal sign. This is an equal sign, right? Okay, 2 equals is equal to. So these are 2 different things, right? Okay, so spline twist is assign the value of my lower torso rotate Y. So my lower torso underscore, my lower torso control, right? Lower torso underscore CTRL. Again, it has to be exactly, right? So lower torso underscore CTRL, and we're going for rotate Y, right? Dot rotate Y. And it has to be lowercase rotate, uppercase Y, no spaces. Okay? You can abbreviate it by doing all lowercase RY. Right? If you wanted to do translate, it would be TY. If you wanted to do scale, it would be SY. Right? But for the sake of writing this out, it's going to be like that. Okay? So our lower torso control dot rotate Y, I'm going to make this larger. Plus, and we need these parentheses, plus double parentheses, mid torso underscore CTRL dot rotate Y, plus upper torso underscore CTRL dot rotate Y. And I'm going to run out of room on the line, but it's going to automatically wrap to the next line. It's still one line. Parentheses. Oh, it's not wrapping. Let me do my wrapping. So we have mid and upper times 2. Multiply in programming is the asterisk, which is shift 8, in case you don't know where that is, because some people don't do asterisks a whole lot. And for the sake of doing this, I'm gonna bring my font down 1, getting it onto a single line. There we go. All right, so Spline spine IK twist is assigned lower torso control dot rotate Y plus mid torso control rotate Y plus upper torso control rotate Y times 2 with a semicolon at the end. Don't forget this semicolon. This semicolon means this is the end of my programming line of code. Okay? So this is like writing a sentence with a period at the end, right? This is the end. Okay? So all of this written out, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go into my expression editor. And I'm going to type a name for this expression. I'm going to call this spine spline IK twist underscore EXPR for expression. I'll write that up here. Spine spline IK twist underscore EXPR. Okay, so this is going to be the name of my expression. You want to name it beforehand. You can change it afterwards, but I'm going to name it here, okay? And down here at the bottom where it says expression, I'm just going to paste this because I copied the code. Spine spline, IK twist, lower torso plus mid torso plus upper torso times 2. Click create. If it gives you result, spine spline IK twist underscore EXPR, then it worked. There was no problem. There was no error. If I get a yellow warning, it did not work. Something's wrong. Okay? And when you get that warning, it clears out what was down here. And that's why we do it here first, so that we can copy and paste it. Figure out what the problem is here, copy and paste it in again, try again, right? Okay. So now that I have this, I'm going to close that. What I should get is twist. There's twist there. There's twist there. And there's twist here. And here's the proof, right? The proof of our math. Lower rotate was 7. I'm going to type rotate Y 7. Mid rotate was 3. Upper was 2. So I'm going to type in 3. And I'm going to select the upper and type in 2. My math had us with a value of 17. If I'm correct, and this is all set up correctly, my twist attribute on my IK handle should be 17 right now. If I select that IK handle, there's my twist attribute, 17. So now I have rotate forward and back, I have rotate left and right, and I have a compounding twist on my controls. I'm going to set my rotate Y back to 0 to get him back in place. Now, we only have about 14 minutes left. I may not get the head completed, or by head, I mean like the neck control. So I may have to finish that up tomorrow. But I think we're doing okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, set up the neck, the head, and jaw. Right, so yeah, I'll probably run out of time here. All right, so again, when I created my spline handle, I did it to this, basically the joint above the sternum, right? Don't go any higher than that because those have to be controlled by this control and this control, okay? So don't go any higher than the joint above the sternum, or, you know, the base of the neck, basically. I don't know how many joints you have. You may have another joint in here, right? So don't go any higher than the base of the neck. This is as high as you should go, okay? Now, for the neck control, we're simply going to do an orient constraint. So I select my neck control. Again, this has been frozen transformations. Shift select this first neck joint, constrain, orient, options, maintain offset, all axes. I'm just going to hit apply. So now I have rotation there, but I have a straight neck. I don't want that. So what I want to do is I want to have this joint rotation be controlled by this joint rotation, and this joint rotation be controlled by this joint rotation. So I'm going to do that through the connection editor. Whatever shows up here is going to show up here and here, right? So again, we've done the connection editor already, so this is nothing new. I'm going to go to Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor. I have my first joint selected. This is going to be what's the controlling element. I'm going to select my second joint and reload right. This is going to be what's going to be controlled. I'm going to open up my rotate. And what I want to do is I want to do individual attribute connections. Rotate X to rotate X, rotate Y to rotate Y, rotate Z to rotate Z. You'd think that rotate would be enough, but it doesn't quite work out that way. So I'm going to do rotate X to rotate X, rotate Y to rotate Y, rotate Z to rotate Z. When I rotate the joint, you'll notice I start to get, it's not a straight line anymore. It gets a bend. I'm going to do the same thing from neck 2 to neck 3. And however many neck joints you have until you get to the head is what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to reload left here and reload right here. And again, connect rotate X to rotate X, rotate Y to rotate Y, rotate Z to rotate Z. So now, when I rotate this control, I get a nice arc in my neck. See that? Pretty. Now the head control, or the head joint, is going to be controlled by its own constraint. I'm just checking my notes on this because I've had to make adjustments over the years, and I've rewritten my notes, and I just want to make sure I have that set properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent first my head control to my neck control. So again, regular old parenting, parent-child hierarchy. Select the head control, shift select the neck, and hit P. So wherever the neck control goes, the head control goes, right? But you'll notice that because my rotations on my joints are being passed from joint to joint to joint, right? This joint is being rotated because of this joint, which is being rotated because of this joint. So when I rotate here, you'll notice that my neck joint goes farther than my head control, right? I lose my layout I lose the position of my head control, right? And I want to keep this in line with this joint, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I need to group my head control. Okay. So right now it's neck control and head control. You can see that right there. Neck control directly controls the head control through parent-child relationship. I'm going to group my head control, which is still part of this hierarchy. I'm going to name it head control underscore GRP. And this group is going to be parent constrained to this joint. Okay. So this joint is going to control where this group goes. So I select the joint, control click the group, and do constrain parent, again, making sure maintain offset is on, all attributes. So now my head control stays with it. Now that I have that, I can have the head control itself control the orientation of the joint. So I select the head control click the joint, or excuse me, shift click the joint, and do constrain, orient, again, make sure everything's on, add. Okay. Whoops. That was double transformations, folks. I was thinking about that, but my notes did not say anything about that problem. What happened was, because my control is getting rotational values from the parent constraint, and the group is getting rotational values from the parent constraint, and the group controls the controller, and the controller controls the joint, and the joint controls the group, and etc. I have that double transformations. So when you do your parent constraint of your joint to the group, you want to turn off rotate. It's going to be translate only. So let me just do that. Now that I've done this, I'm just going to highlight my control group, right click, break connections, so that it's translate only. Let me just make sure that this works. Oh, yo, really? What did I miss here? Oh, I know what I did. Okay, I was reading my notes wrong. Okay, what I did was I had this joint controlling the group, and it should have been this joint. My bad. I apologize for that. Okay, so I'm just going to select the parent constraint that I created, delete it, so that it's no longer doing that thing. And I'm going to do this joint to my group. Constrain parent with everything. And then this controller, orient constraint. Sorry, I made a mistake. It happens. So there we have by itself staying in place, even left and right, and I still have access to control the head by itself. Okay, so I did it wrong. I did it from here instead of here. I should have done it from here. So I apologize for that. So there we go. It works. I turn on my geometry. Huh, okay. You'll see how this looks. Full follows along, and I have individual head rotation like that. So at this point, we've basically run out of time. We're going to set up the jaw, similar to what we did for the puppet. We're going to set up the eyes, similar to what we did multiple times. Finish up the hierarchy and lock everything down. We have time to do that. That's not a whole lot to do tomorrow. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and we'll finish it up tomorrow. I'm not going to make any additional videos. We'll just finish it up tomorrow. Any questions on stuff? Sorry about that confusing little thing there at the end. Say what? So again, just to kind of restate, actually, let me go over the assignment sheet. And I'll give those out. CJ, can you just... I don't know what. Oh, I know what happened. I printed these, and it didn't do front and back for some reason. So they're grouped. So the first two is the first assignment sheet. The second two is the second assignment sheet. So if you don't mind, just give each person the top two sheets. Know what I mean? Okay, so this is due on Monday. Set up the IK spine for the character, set up the neck for the character, set up the head and jaw of the character, as well as eyes. Read pages 161 to 175. Again, this is just for reference, right? This is referring to what we're working on as far as the character is concerned. It's just reference. Don't follow the steps that are in the book. Follow what I did, okay? Follow the lecture in the class, name your groups, name the objects in the scene. Do not create another Maya project directory. Use your current project directory. And again, you're just going to simply be continuing your number system. Don't change the name of your file. Just add the next, every time you save as, add the next number, okay? Set up the spine using the IK spline. Use constraints and controllers to set up the neck for the character. Set up the head and jaw of the character. Thank you. I was wondering why I had so many pages. I was like, that doesn't seem like 12. So remember, controls are zeroed out, not the translates of the joint. The rotation of your joints should be zeroed out. That should already have been checked, okay? The unnecessary channels for each control should be locked down, should be some multiple versions of your work. Project directory folders, scene files in the scenes folder. Your grade breakdown is this. This is a max, I think, 50 points. This part of the setup is working and completed. Rig is ready for the next phase for 6. IK spine is set up, working and complete. Torso controls and twists for 6. Neck is set up, working and complete for 6. Neck is set up using connection editor for 6, right? Jaw and head setup is complete and working for 6. All assets move and scale with the rig. We'll check that in the next tomorrow for 6. Transformations frozen history deleted for the character, which should already be done for 3. All controls are named. Insert points are in the correct position. For 5, that's when we reposition the pivots on the spine controls. That's what that means. For 5, same project directory, did not create a new one for 2. Followed all directions, both written and verbal for 2. Critique, ask and answer questions for 2. All righty. Yep.
So if we like in class, we still need inspiration.
If you didn't turn it in on time, technically you're not supposed to get the critique points for it because you didn't get critiqued, right? So that's what those points are for. So like if you didn't turn in the leg assignment in time for the critique, you shouldn't be getting those points. I've been giving them anyway, but that could change at any point depending on my mood. Right?
Oh.
But that's why they're only a couple of points, right? It's only 2 points, right? So, but yeah, again, the spine working has nothing to do with the legs working. So get the spine working. There should be no reason why nobody turns stuff in. Anybody, you should turn it in on time. Do eat. Cool. All right. That's it. Have a great day.